Hey, Mario.
Hello.
Hey, Mario. Hey, buddy.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, tired already.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Alan.
Hello.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
Baruch Hashem. Have a good day? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. So tomorrow, what time we learn tomorrow? What time we learn tomorrow?
I don't decide those things.
Yeah, okay. No, you have no influence, huh? Yeah. Okay.
Tomorrow it probably will be, well, I don't know if he wants to do it. I would prefer 7:30, but
So do I. Yeah.
Oh.
So to do Perry, you'd have some advance. So we start to do Perry today.
We are not in new test.
You'd have some advance on the bottom of the Mishnah. Let's start the Mishnah today.
Oh, so you did more.
No, we just the Mishnah. We stopped at the Mishnah last night. Yud Chesam at base. We didn't at the bottom. We didn't do the Mishnah. We did till the Mishnah. We started to do Perek.
There we go.
Okay, yeah.
Hi, Kenny, we missed you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just in and out.
That's okay.
But I did learn the Daf. So
Good.
we're ready to roll.
Right.
New Perek.
We're on new Perek Shlishi. Seder Taniya Selu Ha'amr B'Revia Rishona. That means in that first period, whether it starts on the 3rd of Cheshvan or the 7th of Cheshvan or the 23rd of Cheshvan, if you remember, there was a three-way machlokas when the Revia Rishona starts. But these sets of fasts that we went through in the second Perek, where we took the Aron out and we added 6 brachos and all of that, and you had to time it. There was the first set of 3 taniyos, and then there was a set of 7 taniyos, right? So there's a whole order. Says the Mishnah about smochim sheshanu. But if all of a sudden you look at the growth of the plants and you see that they're diseased, so that's not a disease of lack of rain. That's a blight. Like Rashi says, under a wheat, there's some pus, or under a barley thing. So that is an emergency. And masrin aleim miyad. If you remember, in the order when there was no rain, we only started blowing shofar after the first couple of fasts or the second couple of fasts, whatever. There was an order when you started blowing shofar. This Mishnah is now telling us if you see changes in the characteristic look of the various plants that are growing, then you don't wait at all. You start blowing shofar right away. Let's say between one rainfall and another rainfall, between, for example, the Revia Rishon and the Revia Shniya, is more than 40 days. So that's a batsoiris, that's a drought. That's what would be defined as a drought. Therefore, masrin aleim right away. You blow trua right away. B'meishi makas batsoiris. That's a clear geder that you're in a drought. Now, yardu l'tzmachim of a lo yardu l'ilum. Different plants require different amount of rain. So let's say enough, hi Harold, let's say enough rain fell for plants, but not enough rain for trees. Or la'ilon v'lo l'tzmachim, or vice versa. It fell for trees, but not for other plants that need even more rain. Or for example, lazeh, rain fell for trees and plants, but avalola boris l'sichin aretz. The community had water cisterns, it had irrigation ditches, it had certain water collection areas, caves, in order to gather water for summertime when it doesn't rain. So let's say enough rain fell for trees and plants, but not enough to fill these storage places. So that's an emergency. Masrin aleim miyad. There's no waiting period like we had in the previous parak that you waited three, second set, whatever. V'chein ir shelo yardu alei kshamim. Let's say you have a city that didn't experience rain, even though maybe there was rain in the suburbs or in the agricultural areas. So that's already a siman klala. T'chsiv parti al ir echas ve'al ir achas lo amtir chelka achas timad. It's a pasuk in Amos where some rain fell on this city, but not in the other city. That's a siman klala. So Osa ir misanu masras. So the city that didn't have rainfall, they fast and they blow shofar. The chol svivoseh misanus v'lo masrios. The neighborhoods around that city, they participate in the fast, but they don't blow shofar. Rabbi Kiva Omer just the opposite. Masrios v'lo misanos. That the neighboring suburbs blow shofar but don't fast. Okay. V'chein ir sheyesh bo dever o mapolas. You have a plague, COVID. You have a plague that's a dever, where people are getting sick, like a pandemic. O mapolas, that earthquakes or walls are collapsing because of winds, or homes are collapsing because of tornadoes or hurricanes. So that city again fasts and blows shofar. The neighboring cities fast but don't blow shofar. Just the opposite. They blow shofar. They don't fast. Now, what's a dever? So this Mishnah is going to give us a definition of a plague. The city has 500 people, and there were 3 deaths in 3 consecutive days. Harei zeh dever. That's a plague. Pachos mikan ein zeh dever. Less So you can calculate the percentages. If you have 500,000 people, right? 500,000. So you're talking about 3,000 deaths in 3 days. Well, I'm not even sure the COVID pandemic reached that. We didn't have 3,000 deaths in one city in 3 days, correct? There were like
I don't think so.
no, there was like 100 deaths, but that
Yeah,
seems
not 1,000.
No, there were thousands of this.
Not in 3 days.
Mario. The death rate was like 100 in Los Angeles. Now, remember, Los Angeles has 15 million people. So you got to multiply that. If 500,000 need
It's 30 times.
3,000. So you're talking about
90,000 people.
deaths in 3 days. So that's a real epidemic. Maybe the Black Plague in the 1300s had that. Even the Spanish flu didn't have that many deaths per day, and there were a lot of deaths in the Spanish flu. Okay. Anyways, that gives us a very, very valuable benchmark. How Chazal viewed it. Al elu masriim b'chol makom. And by the way, you see the Gedolim, they didn't declare a fast or because it didn't meet this criteria. By the way, the Rambam says you don't count women, children, and old people in that calculation. Because remember, women died of childbirth, children infant mortality was very high, elderly people died all the time. So that's not included. So the calculation would be different. Listen to this. The Shulchan Aruch says, the Magen Avram says, "Uviyameinu ein misanin b'shas hadever." You don't fast during a plague. We're concerned that fasting is going to make people sick when they need to be eating and drinking. That's what the Magen Avram says. Fascinating. Back to the Mishnah.
Again, these are 12-hour fasts.
Yeah, these are
12-hour
12-hour
fast. Yeah, and then you can eat afterwards, and so it would be every day then, for a period of time.
Yeah. Until it stopped.
So you have to fast every day, but you eat at night then.
Yeah.
Like on Ramadan.
Oh, maybe that's what they get it right. That's it.
Al elu masrin b'chol makom. Here, on the following things, you blow shofar everywhere, not just in the city and the neighboring suburbs. Al hashidafon. Shidafon is when the grain is struck with
The wind.
No. Shidafon is a disease of grain.
Oh, here it says wind blast.
No, Shidafon is batvuos, is a disease of tvua.
It was wrongly translated. Okay.
And ala yerokon is another disease in wheat. Ve'ala arbet, like the boll weevil and fungus, various diseases. Ve'ala arbet, a locust plague. Ve'ala chosn, which is a different type of locust. Ve'ala chayera, tigers and bears are running amok in where people live. Or ala cherev. Let's say an armed army is traveling through, and especially they're an enemy. Masrin alev, so you blow shofar, neshi maka malechas. It's a moving makkah, and therefore everyone has to, because it could arrive anywhere. Ma'aser sheyardu zkenim Hashem la'areim. the Zakanim of Yerushalayim went down to their cities. The Gazru Taanis Daf Shidaf and Bashkelon. They found a little bit of this blight in the wheat in Ashkelon. And they declared Taanis for everybody. Od Gazru Taanis al Shachlu Ze'evim, Shnei Tinoikos Be'ever Ayarden. A wolf or pack of wolves ate 2 children on the other side of the Jordan. Rabbi Yossi al Sha'achlu ela al Shaniru. Rabbi Yossi says they weren't eaten, it's just the wolves were seen in the city. You know, we see coyotes in Hancock Park.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I guess they don't. Alelu Masrim b'Shabbos. On the following things you can blow trua even on Shabbos. Al ir shehi kifua nochrim. Goyim have laid siege to a city. O Nahar, a river has overflooded its banks. The alasfina mitarefes bayam, a boat is sinking. You can see a boat sinking off the shore. Rabbi Yossi Omer le'ezra v'lo le'tza'aka. You blow shofar for help, not just stam for tefillah. Shimon HaTimoni Omer afala dever. He says you blow shofar on Shabbos even for a plague. However, lo hoidu lo chacham, and the chacham didn't agree. Al kol tzar shlo yisover latzibur masrin aleim. And this is a general rule. On any tzara that affects the public, you blow shofar. Chutz me'rav kshamim. Except if there's too much rain. Because rain in general is a siman bracha. So you don't blow shofar if you get too much of it. And a famous story is now recounted by the Mishnah. Ma'isa she'arnu lo l'choni ha'michael. Choni the circle. Choni was the name he was given. He was called Choni ha'michael. We'll see in a minute why. So Choni was known as a miracle worker. So the people came to him and said, "Hispalal sheyerdu kshamim, daven so it'll rain." Amar lahem tzeu v'chnisu tanurei psachim. You better put your clay ovens into the house. Bishvil shelo yimoku, because otherwise they're going to get destroyed from water. Because I'm going to daven now. It's going to rain like crazy. Hispalal v'lo yordu kshamim. So Choni daven didn't rain. Ma asa, og uga v'amar. He drew a circle, and he stood in the circle. V'amar l'fanav, and he said to Hashem, "Ribono shel olam, banecha samu pnei alai, your children turn to me. Shani keben bais levnecha, I'm like someone who lives in your house. Nishbani b'shimcha gadol, I take an oath in your name, she'eni zazmi kamat she'terachim al banecha. I'm not going to leave this circle until you have mercy on your children." Yischiluk shamim and natfin. Started drizzling. Omar Choni said, "Lo kach sha'alti." I didn't ask for a little drizzle. El gishmei barashich nemaros. I asked for rain that's going to fill the water cisterns. Yischilu lered bezaf. So it started pouring. Omar lo kach sha'alti. I didn't ask for such heavy rain. El gishmei ratzon bracha. I want, a mild rain. Fine. Yardu kitikunon. So the rain fell, but it kept on falling. It flooded the whole city until everyone had to go to the highest part of Yerushalayim, Harabais. So they came to Choni and they said, okay, now just like you daven now that the rain should come, please daven that they should go away. Go check. There was a big stone that was in the Yerushalayim, and they would use that stone. They would announce lost and found at that stone. And that if it has not rained to such an extent that it came up to that stone, then it's not appropriate that you've asked for that it should stop. So, Shalach lo Shimon ben Shetach. So Shimon ben Shetach, who was the head of the Sanhedrin in that generation, I guess heard all about this whole dialogue, and he said, if it wasn't for the fact that you're choni, I would have put you into excommunication. Look at how you talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Too much, it's not too, not. What can I do to you? You negotiate with Hashem and he does whatever you want. Like a son who tells his father, I want an ice cream, I want a lollipop. And the father gives him, that he said, your father and mother should be very happy, and your children or who you give birth to also should be happy. Okay. How you misana v'yardim kshamim? So like Elazar said, let's say they needed rain and they fasted. And if it started raining, so if it started raining before the nates, before the sun came up, so they don't have to be mashlim the fast. However, if it only started raining after, then they have to finish the fast. He gives a more longer period. If it rains before noon, then they don't have to finish. Ma'isa shegazru Taanis belod. Lod, they were goyzer at Taanis. They v'yardulem kshamim kodim chatzois, and the rain fell before noon. Amalem Rav Tarfon suvichlu. Go and eat. Ushesu v'asu yontiv. Go make a yontiv. V'yatzu v'achlu v'shasu v'asu yontiv. And not only that, Bo ben Arbaim v'karo halal gadol. In the afternoon, they all said in shul Hallel to give thanks that their tefillas were heard.
Was there another story about Choni, by the other one, when he prayed for rain? He bet a guy a lot of money or something, and then the guy came and wanted to collect the money because the rain didn't come. He borrowed money. He borrowed water from somebody, and he said he'd pay it back. And there came the time, and he just still didn't raise. He wasn't able to pay them back. Was that a case with Choni Amagil? You know that story? And then the guy.
This is the story. This is the Choni Amagil story, the regular one.
But there's another story about him that he borrowed water, and he said he'd pay him back by a certain date. And the guy says, if you don't pay back the water, then I'm going to take a big sum of money from you. And then the guy went into the mikveh, and then he came out. It hadn't rained yet, but it looked like it was dark because the clouds came over. And because of Choni Amagil, the power he had, it's almost like he held up the day, because the day came and he hadn't paid him back the water. So the sky looked dark. It looked like it was night already, but it really wasn't, because it was just cloudy. So it didn't. Remember that story? Yeah, that's Choni Amagil also, I think. Remember that story there?
We're going to have another story in the Gemara about Choni Amagil, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's probably the story. Okay.
We're going to have a few stories about Choni Amagil.
Okay,
In the Gemara, that's going to enlarge on the legend of Choni Amagil. In time, there was the next few blot are magnificent agadita, some of the most magnificent agadita in all of Shas, which we
quoted. Yeah.
So Seder Tanya Seilo Amar B'Revia Rishona. We said that the order is different if all of a sudden you see a blight. V'Reminu Revia Rishona Shnia Lishol. That if there is no rain in the first and second period, you have to daven for rain. Shlishis Lisamas. And in the third, you fast. So Amar Yidachi Kamer Seder Tanya So Omer Amasai Bizman Shiatz Revia Rishona Shnia Shlishis V'Le'adik Shanim. When do we go the order that we went through in the Perek Sheni? That's, you went through Revere, Rishon, and Shnir Shlishis and no rain. Aval Yordu Kshamim Revere, Rishon. But let's say rain fell during the first period. The Zaru Velot Samchu. And they put the seeds in the ground, but nothing grew. Or Inami Tzamchu V'chazru V'nishtanu. Or the plants grew, but now it looks different. So that's when our Mishnah says, Masrin Alei Miyad, you can blow shofar right away. You don't have to wait any more period. Amrav Nachman, Dafka Nishtanu. The appearance has to look weird. Aval Yavshu Lo. But if they just look dry, that's not enough. That's not enough to fast. And for example, there's no takana if it's dry. You can't resurrect it. Afraid to go up pshita on this tanu tonight. It doesn't say yavshu, it says nishtanu. So lo tzricha de akum. And maybe they got better. That means initially they looked bad, but now they look like they're getting better. And now to say makanta milsahi, and now that they looked a little better, maybe it's that these dried plants could resurrect. Kamash Malan, that there's no takana and there's no point in fasting if everything's dried up. If there's 40 days between rain. So my makas, and it's called makas batsoiris. Well, makas batsoiris is not batsoiris. Why is it just makas batsoiris? It's a hit that will lead to a full-on drought. Rav Nachman, Nara Anara. For example, you live in an area where there's no grain, but you live on the Mississippi River, so you can bring the grain from up in Kansas, from a different area. So that's batsorta. But medinta, if you have to bring it from a different country, so that's kafna. Kafna is like a hunger. It's worse. Okay. So tomorrow we'll learn at 7:30 because we have shiur at 8:00. Okay?
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We can learn a half hour.
thank you.
And we'll talk about Friday tomorrow. Friday, we'll probably